Hey there, fellow financial adventurers. Welcome to another exciting episode of Money 911, where we're about to embark on a journey that will ignite your financial future. I am your enthusiastic guide, Kris, and today's episode is just like a shot of adrenaline for your success. Get ready because we're diving deep into the art of how to thrive under high demand. Before we jump in, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications because we're about to unleash a treasure trove of insights that will not only supercharge your productivity, but also transform the way that you view high-pressure situations. Buckle up, folks. It's time to thrive. Welcome, everybody, to Money 911. And you heard the amazing intro about our friend, Dr. Kaur, Andy Kaur. And it's really an honor and pleasure to have you here today.
The honor's all mine. I'm excited for our chat today.
I really enjoy this kind of a conversation. I had a brain injury, pituitary tumor, and so I had to spend a lot of time learning how to, get the brain and get the whole high performance thing back in line. So your expertise of thriving under high demand is nothing short than legendary. And maybe you could share with us what ignited your passion and what got you on this incredible journey.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, so my journey begins as a little kid where I was surrounded by people who were very high intelligence, high charisma, really good-looking people who consistently underachieved in their life. And and so being raised in that environment, I was always thinking to myself, gosh, why? Why are these people not being more successful, you know? And so when you grow up like that, you find that you try to see the best in people all the time. I always expected the people who I meet, and I always expect the best from them and want the best from them. I believe that we're hardworking adults are the solution to all the world's problems. The more we can get working adults to reach their potential, the more we can solve all of our organizational issues, organizational growth, and society as a whole. And so I've been doing this for 26 years. And so for the past 26 years, I've kind of grown from well-being to work-life balance to how to thrive under pressure to now this idea, I think, of being able to excel in conditions that oftentimes are challenging, and that's what we're faced a lot in today's world is the challenges of rapid growth, disruption, and plus just the normal challenges that we face as being a human being. So my goal has always been to help working adults achieve more of their potential.
That's fabulous because right now the days would be quick. And I mean, it is like still 24 hours, but it seems like less. And so the pace, right? It just keeps going. I mean, I'm literally running from one room to another in a day just to keep up with it. It is going faster. There's no doubt, everybody that I talk to says the same thing. Everything is moving very fast. So, in that kind of bombardment and taking, a lot of things coming out, what kind of a mindset shift or essential trait would empower individuals to not just survive, but to be able to thrive, to ride on top of the wave instead of being, overcome by it?
It's a great question, and
Thank you.
it's really been my primary focus. It's not what really gets us motivated, but really what keeps us motivated and focused and present and grounded and at our best, right? So the speed of change in today's world is faster than it's ever been, especially in the working context. But then again, I think that happens. It happens, but there's always change and there's always disruption and there's always stressors and there's always massive opportunities. So I think it is about a perception shift. There's some specific nuanced cases, I think that deserve really to explore, like for instance, in today's world, there's a big debate about working from home or working in office, and as someone who does resiliency research, I actually like the flexibility of working from home. But I also believe in the sense that we need a greater sense of peer-to-peer connection to grow. So I use that as just an example to kind of to segue into, as human beings, the research in resiliency, which is not just the ability to get knocked down and get back up, but to withstand all the speed, the pressure, the stress, and really be able to shuck it off, be almost immune to it. And so, if you look at the research, there are four primary mindsets that elicit the strongest resilient response. And they are a sense of commitment. And every thought leader in the world talks about commitment, purpose, passion, and they should, because it's an incredibly paramount importance. But then they often leave it with, you just get out there and do that. So but as a researcher, as a tactical guy, I've always thought, we need to go deeper and help people understand what that looks like in their life. So for example, in resiliency research, we say that commitment means that you look at your daily life as meaningful and interesting and worth your investment, full commitment. So meaningful, interesting, and worth your full effort. Right. And so if that's how we measure commitment. So oftentimes people think I just have this passion in life and I need to pursue it, but then they end up finding themselves sometimes mysteriously unmotivated. And I think that often comes back to this idea of, it's not about the goal is incredibly important to define it, but each day we have to live in a way and especially think in a way that keeps us motivated. And so that first mindset of commitment of seeing your life as meaningful, interesting, and worth your total investment, full investment, is one of the key mindsets. Kris, jump in if you want me to, if you have a question, but I'm really passionate about this and I'll go on and on if you don't.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. Because resilience is really, it's really like your superhero kind of cape, you could say, and it's a way that all of us can be able to be resilient, but by having commitment, right? That's where it starts. But it's hard for a lot of people, and they reset into it's just too much. It's hard, right? And so, and then there's you get flapping in the wind, and a lot of financial villains come in the way and try to get you off. So, how do you so you were on, you had four things. So you had commitment, and then this is to get your resilience on, right?
Yeah, so that way, okay, let me just define resilience for you a little bit better. So,
Yeah.
most people think of resilience as, Rocky Balboa. You get knocked down,
Right.
you get back up, right? No matter, you keep getting back up. And
Yeah.
that's a part of it, right? But there's another boxer called George Foreman who people could hit him with a freight train and it wouldn't bother him. And I
Mm.
think it's that solidity, that emotional and strength, that perception that makes you almost invulnerable is, to me, I think what's most valuable, because people will get knocked down and they'll, most of the people that, you and I work with, they'll get back up. But how can we make it to where they absorb less of the stress, that they can walk through the headwind faster,
Right.
easier, and actually enjoy it more? So that your comments directly tie into that second concept of resiliency, and that's a sense of control.
Mm.
The highest levels of burnout come in people who feel like that if they work at something, it won't make any difference. So the people who are really resilient in their mind, in their heart, they believe that if they work at something, they stick with it, they will be successful, that their effort is worthwhile. And I think that's a real challenge for financial professionals, because, there's so many things that are outside of your control and your client's control. But you as an expert have a path that people can follow, that they can establish through your experience and expertise, a sense of control. And that that there's going to be dips, peaks and valleys, but over time, this has been shown to work no matter what if we stick to the path. So I feel like even in this financial space where there's so much volatility, it's crucial for a person to believe that in the long term, they really are in control of their own financial health. And I think
Right.
that's key but I think it also happens in all the other aspects of our life. I mean, I have two teenage daughters, and I can tell you that I often feel completely out of control of what's going on for them in their life.
Right.
But what I also know is that do, if I work within what I have control over, my thoughts, my actions, my support, then I believe that I can help them reach their level of success to the point that where I'm capable. So just falling into what you actually is within your sphere of control is crucial to emotional health and also that resilient motivation.
And that is so true. And I like that you brought in the financial services because, I deal in that so much. And that's the problem that people have is and it really, you can, health is wealth. You can apply it to everything where you feel like everything is out of control. The way the world is going is out of control. The way the financial system is out of control. Really, because it is changing before people's eyes. But nobody really understands it because you go to school, you learn how to make money, you get out of school, what do? Go make money and give it to somebody else to gamble. Then it's like a roulette wheel. Will it be up or down when you retire? And they don't know about safe money. They don't know about being in control or being committed to a plan. And it's not taught. This is not taught. This should be taught. This resiliency and isn't just like getting back up after you get punched. I'd like you to elaborate on that because I'd pull it back so people can, okay, I'm going to be resilient. Well, how do you be resilient, right?
Yeah, so this idea of resiliency is kind of like the topic of like leadership. There's so many definitions, and it
Yeah.
encompasses such a broad topic. So I like to really narrow it down for hardworking adults, right? So like I mentioned, getting punched, knocked down, and getting back up. That's just part of life. The better you are at that, the more successful you will be. But at the end of Rocky's fight, he won, but did you see his face? I mean, it's not good,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So George
Right.
Foreman,
Hmm.
you could hit him with a brick and he's just gonna flinch,
Right.
where it would crush most of us. But see, he
Right.
will also knock people out with a glancing blow. I mean, his power was so strong. And I think that's what these mindsets give us. It's kind of like an internal strength that makes us more, we can withstand more, absorb less. And I think that's what's most crucial in today's world, well, in all of life, but especially when you face a lot of uncertainty and change. So I really try to get people to think about it to like, well, one of my nephews plays a lot of video games, and I was watching him play one of his best favorite video games, and he kept getting these little heart-shaped symbols, and I was like, "What are those?" He goes, "Those are my health boosters," and he goes, "The more of those I get, the less people. If I get shot, it doesn't zap my energy as much." And I was like,
Mhm.
"That's what my mindsets are." They're like they give you a greater shield, more internal energy. I don't know. I'm probably going off the rails, but
No, that's
it just
okay. Yeah.
it really is about internal strength.
Do you have practical applications that you engage in, or are you so set now that it's just automated inside of you? Because the amount of noise and bombardment that we get during the day, it's pretty easy to get off and go down the wrong rabbit hole.
Yeah, so I speak all the time, right, on
Yeah.
these topics, and I make a statement in the first part of my presentation where I say, I'm not the sage from the stage. I'm not the guru who's never made a mistake. As a matter of fact, about every 6 months or so, I become the person I aspire to help.
Right.
Right? But
Right.
then I
Right.
also get to listen to all my own presentations, which is helpful. But the point really is that we all fall victim to some. We all have these patterns are built in our American working culture that can easily sabotage the most type A, diligent, strong person. You can find yourself in a bad pattern, right? But if you find yourself in that pattern, how do you respond? And so I think my mindsets, not my mindsets, these four resiliency mindsets really give people a way to get refocused. So I would say you could ask yourself the question of like for commitment, do I believe that my personal life is meaningful? How meaningful is it? Right? Do I believe that my life is interesting? Do I approach my day as this is interesting, with a sense of curiosity or a sense of cynicism or just total fatigue, disengagement? And do you look at your life as this is really worth my effort? And if you don't feel that way, it's time to journal. It's time to talk with someone. It's time to get those things solidified because that's where a lot of internal motivation and strength comes from. And also too, like on the second point that we've gotten to on this idea of control, right? So if I was interviewing you and you were having a lull in your motivation, I would say, do you believe that if you put your sincere effort into this, you have a great chance of being successful? Do you believe that? And if they hesitate, then that's when you got to dig in and get to work, because the more you hesitate on that, the lower your motivation is. So those are just the first two, but I really feel like the application of this is pretty big. I've got tons of research and stories and case studies that support these ideas, support these four key ideas. But I think just like, in a quick format like this, if you can ask yourself these questions that I just mentioned, they really help you focus, I think, on what'll get and keep you motivated.
All right. So we have commitment, control, and number three.
Number three what they call a challenge mindset. So
Okay.
in life, yeah, in life, do you view challenges, difficulties, stressors as a pain in the backside or a threat to your standing, or do you look at them as a normal part of life that often helps you grow? A lot of people talk about that, but here's the problem: is that whenever anyone reaches a certain level of stress, their mindsets can become distorted. It's called cognitive distortions.
Right.
And what happens is you become more fearful, you start to isolate yourself, you become more selfish, you become more risk averse, you just start to close yourself up. And when you do that, your thinking goes off the rails. So what I want people to realize is that if you start to look at difficulties or challenges or frustrations kind of cynically, then you are falling victim to these distortions, and they're zapping your energy and health and quality of life. So anytime you feel yourself that way, here's the question to ask yourself: is difficulties and change normal in today's life? In life in general, over the ages? Of course it
Right.
is. All right. And then I say, okay, but then in your life, how often has stressors, frustrations, challenges really sabotaged you? Or how often have you come out of that better? And it's just a framing mechanism to get people to realize that don't forget your history. You've done well before and you'll do well again if you embrace this situation.
Right. And there's a combination because you could have one thing that, no problem. You get challenged and it's like just water off the back. But there's certain things like I had some very close to me that might have a bad medical problem, right? Something that, ooh, you really have no control over. And you can take whatever scenario, whether if it's health or wealth. A lot of people are, what is it, 61% are living paycheck to paycheck right now, right?
Mhm.
Half of baby boomers don't have anything saved. Does that
Mhm.
give you a little bit of stress? Or can you ride the top of the wave and see it as a blessing and get to a higher level on it, right?
Yeah, right. And yeah, I mean, if you find yourself in a situation to where there are situations that are outside of your control that can have a real significant impact on you, like a medical issue or the economic system swinging down, you need to retire. There's many things like that. But what you have to realize is that your perception of that situation is going to drive not only how you feel and your motivation, but your physiological health. So it's
Right.
crucial for you to go back to this idea that, challenge, change, stress, challenge, frustrations, those things are normal. It's normal. And when I really look at it, I can make progress in my life even now, and I can grow, right? And so that's got to be your focus, because otherwise it becomes cynicism, anxiety, depression, and then burnout. And that's a difficult cycle that you don't want to be in. So another way, though, I think that if you look at the value, I think, of experts like in financial services, is that they have been there and done that most of the time. They've seen it, right? So you will be able to say to your customers, to help them get this challenge mindset, you could say, this is a bad situation. I mean, it is what it is. But let me tell you what I've learned about this in the past. Let me tell you what's happened with this in the past. Let me tell you
Right.
about what we've done to help people feel more in control and grow from this. So I
Right.
think those kind of relationships are crucial.
Absolutely. And I mean, and that's the same basis that I built my business on when I say healthy money, happy life. It's when things are in order, it does give you peace of mind. And when you understand, that, hey, you could create income you'll never outlive. How about tax free? And nobody even knows about that concept that they're more in the risk mode of, almost gambling kind of, and they're not taught about like safe money. So that applies to money, but it also applies to health, and it applies to the mindset. So what I want to ask you is, what's your favorite, well, you could say magic trick, or a way for leaders to boost their engagement, keep the party going, keep it up, right, when the pressure's on?
Oh, like in an organizational format? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the reality of this is that most business working professionals are intelligent, and they're going to see through things that aren't real. So
Right.
I'm a big believer in addressing people in a way that is honest, open, authentic, because otherwise you can have the best strategy in the world and it's going to fall flat. So I also try to get leaders to consistently open their conversations, their presentations, their one-on-ones with context. And what I'm talking about here is a shared sense of commitment, number one, right? So for instance, you could say, here at ABC, we believe in this, and that's why we do this, and that's how you're a part of this, and do you feel that way? And then, to get them to really connect this idea of what this shared sense of commitment is for, right? Because when people start to feel like, when people start to become disengaged, it's usually because their leaders have lost their trust, or they're working too much. There's too much uncertainty. They start to doubt their ability to control, to be successful. And those things can really damage engagement. So if someone doesn't feel like the commitment is real, they don't feel like they have control over their own success, if they feel like every stressful situation is a threat to their job or their standing versus a challenge that they will be supported in, it makes a big difference. And I mean, I think those are key. Like I just did, and you helped me with this. I did a research study on financial advisors, and I had a huge survey. It was great. It turned out fantastic. We found I was connecting to work engagement, how engaged you are in your work, and resiliency, these four mindsets. And what I found is that the ability of the most highly motivated people in this survey had the highest levels of internal resiliency.
Hmm.
And I just believe that in today's world of change, the more your mind can prepare you and create the right perceptions, the more prepared you will be as a leader, as an investor, as a family member.
Absolutely. It, I wrote a song about it called "The Power of Purpose," and that's the commitment. And I know for myself, I'm working retired, so I don't have to. But this commitment or this purpose of, hey, I see millions of little sheepies about to go off a cliff, and nobody's telling them. They're saying, turn on cable news, and it's like everything's fine, just keep going that way, and everybody's just walking off a cliff, and they are not aware of that because they're not being taught that. And it's not a negative thing; it's just make a turn, make a change and pay attention because things are moving fast, and you're going to look up, and these things are going to be different, whatever level we're talking about, right? So
Mhm.
that purpose, it gives you the commitment and the resiliency, and then your challenges. I always say everything's a blessing, right? When you look at everything that's happening, there's always a good thing that comes from it. And I was on another show the other day, and someone was interviewing me. What would you say to your old self, right? Your young self? And it really was like I just look in the camera and go, stop worrying. And I'm talking to myself, right? Everybody,
Mhm.
stop worrying. Whatever I was worried about, yesterday or 5 weeks ago, I don't even remember, right? And so
Mhm.
all of that life, when I look back of things that maybe I would regret, now I can look at it as a blessing because now I know how to do it. But I spent a lot of time worrying, and none of the things really ever even happened, right?
It's so true. It's so true. And that in itself is one of those cognitive distortions,
Right.
right? We become so focused on where we are and what may happen in our immediate future that we lose the fact that to be fully present in the moment
Yes.
and realize, see, like that's a really interesting prompt, that question of what would you tell your younger self?
Right.
I mean, I would just go back and tell my younger self, say, listen, relax. You don't know enough yet. Just
Oh,
keep growing. Try to grow. Try to
right.
grow. Try to learn and grow. Learn and grow. And then when you get knocked down, get back up, learn and grow. Right. And so,
Right.
I mean, if I
Yeah.
could go back and teach myself those four mindsets,
Yeah.
it would have revolutionized my life because it would have eliminated
Mhm.
a lot of worry. It would have
Right.
definitely put me in a place to where I would have felt a lot more in control of my life. I would have been much more resilient to and less fearful of change and challenges. And then the fourth piece is a sense of community, a sense of a shared purpose, right? And I would
Right.
have told myself to fully embrace the people I'm with,
Yes.
because I
Yes.
was one of those kinds of people that just put my head down and go. And my brother
Mhm.
was, he always says, Andy, he goes, I really respect your dedication, but sometimes you'll run over things to get to where you want to be. And that I didn't realize that,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know?
Yeah,
So,
me too. I know. Yeah, I hear you.
so, but I
Mhm.
didn't connect with the people in my spheres of connection as much as I should have. I should have built more mentors. I should have tried to mentor more people. I should have developed more peer relationships, people who do the kinds of work that I was doing at the time. I really should have done that because, now as I look at the research on what creates this resilient person, that sense of community is so crucial. So, like the question I would ask someone if they were struggling, I would say, okay, so what tribes are you a part of? Right. So for me, I'm a part of my little core family, my
Mhm.
extended family, and also I think my fellow speakers, that family, and then also my family of people who just want to grow as a working adult. Right.
Right.
So I would think about those, yeah, and I would grow those. So
Right.
it's really important because what we find, especially now in today's world where working from home, which is a fantastic thing, but people in the latest research on working from home says that people say they're happier when they're working from home, but they also are reporting higher levels of anxiety, burnout, and depression.
Mhm. Right. And
So
it's
there's a
yeah.
bit of a disconnect there.
Yeah, a bit. And I think I know for myself just the comparison between, being in a little silo for the last few years, right, in the pandemic scenario. And then started going out speaking again. In fact, I'm going in a few weeks to Dallas to speak. But it's been a few years. And
Mhm.
I could not tell you how much, how, how wonderful it is to see people and hug them and look them in the eyes. I'm looking at this little plastic camera with lights around it. I mean, I see you, but of course, a community, and we can still have community even in lockdown, right? We still hung together and developed a lot of different communities, but there's nothing like that. And it's so important, even just to have a community that you might give back to. Because I found,
Yeah.
Andy, I found maybe about halfway in my business, I have a successful business, a legacy wealth strategist, and we've made over 6,000 living trusts and never lost a dime in the stock market. So we're doing this safe money conversation, which most people don't know about. Very successful, but about mid time, mid part of my life, it was like, okay, you can only drink one cup of tea at a time. So it when I shifted the business from getting for myself or my family into a bigger, how can I give back to the community and how can I take what I've learned and create the missing educational, the financial literacy. So I've created programs called Create Income You'll Never Outlive and things that people don't know about. So that's given me now an extended purpose. So now my longevity might have gone from 100 to 120, right? In good health. But
It's
that's
true
the
though.
importance of community. It does seem to tie together with commitment, doesn't it?
It does. That's a great point because it does. Community can be just about support. It can also community can be about co-learning and mastermind and mentorship, but it also is about a shared purpose. And that's where it can
Right.
get really, I think sometimes it always doesn't always have to be that way, but in certain cases, to have a shared purpose and a sense of community is incredibly powerful. It's amazing, and if you look at, I'll give you an example of how there's the connection between your mindset and your health. Uh,
Yes. Yes.
these
Yes.
these
Hmm.
these mental resiliency connections. There's a couple studies I'm going to tell you about. One is a study of POWs. So they had done research on these service people that went overseas, were in war, got captured, and were significant prisoners of war. And when they brought them back, they did a DNA analysis. And what they're doing is they're measuring what's called telomere length. So our
Right.
DNA strands, the shorter they are, that's a sign of aging when they get
Right.
shorter. And so they were measuring these telomere lengths for these POWs. And those that had a higher mental resiliency score were far more resistant to the high stress of being a prisoner of war. And so I could sum this up is that when they came back from being a POW, some of them tested out at an age of, let's say, 70, and they were 50. And the people that had higher mental resiliency that were 50 tested out at 50. So
Right.
it's a very protective thing when you can develop this internal resiliency.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Invaluable. It's invaluable, really.
it's invaluable. And the other
Yeah.
study has to do with, I think you mentioned health, because I think
Right.
that's a really important one to address,
Hmm.
because that's something that oftentimes is out of our control. So
Yes.
they did a study on moms whose children had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Hmm.
And it's the worst nightmare I could think of.
Yes, it is. Hmm.
And they measured their resiliency, and the moms who had higher internal mental resiliency had little or no signs of PTSD, where the other moms had significant PTSD. Now, I'm not saying that these 4 mindsets are the ultimate cure for everything, but I do believe that focusing on them and improving your sense of clarity around those 4 simple kind of premises or orientations can really make a difference in not only your success but your health.
Absolutely. Health is wealth, and what good is wealth if you don't have your health, right?
Perfect.
You well, you've got some award-winning books, and they're a testament to your expertise, and what you talk about is so important. What I want you to do is just give the audience a little tantalizing glimpse onto what you're working on, or how you can, what you've done can serve as a guiding light, so people can wrap around, not just have the conceptions of these things, but the practical applications.
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. And that's something I've worked really hard on. My book that I published is Change Your Day, Not Your Life. And I'm
Great.
really proud of that book because it gives the daily strategies on thinking and living that help you build your internal resilience, but your wellness, your well-being as well. And I also have been a professional speaker for 26 years, and I often speak to various groups about how they can improve their resiliency, their happiness, their motivation. And then also on my website, if they're interested at andycore.com, there's a newsletter that I provide. And in the short term, I'm gonna provide a way for people to do a resiliency assessment and get specific advice on how they can improve their own resiliency.
That's great. And that you're willing to share what you've learned, right, and help people along the way. The information overload is, I think, really hard. Okay. I mean, especially now that we're kind of tied to devices. I mean, even though it's not, and I don't want it inside of me, okay, but it is kind of like we are androids. I mean, you're always attached to your phone. And so, how do you filter out all the noise and focus on what really, truly matters?
Yeah, so that creating, I forget who named it this, but an expert named this kind of as white space in your life.
Uh
You know,
huh.
is that you have to create these little white spaces. Otherwise, you'll never get time to sit and contemplate and think things through and regain perspective. And my favorite ways to do that are, number one is to go outside into nature.
Yeah,
And
right.
that helps me clarify my mind and my attitude, honestly, more than anything else.
Right.
I also journal a lot. Like most experts, we always talk about journaling, right? But it's because it
Hmm.
works. And then my last piece too is that I also believe in meditation. We've got to create some white space for our brains to kind of unravel all these thoughts and quiet it down, so that way we can kind of ground ourselves. So I'm a big believer in nature, journaling, and meditation, which is not a super original concept.
Not original, but it is practical and it works. Sometimes I'll just go outside, take my shoes off, and stand on the grass, ground out, right?
It's good.
And um, and I was always told, take 5, meaning just take time after work, and just. And I literally started doing this after my husband passed, and he kept telling me just take 5 minutes, because it was work, 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 and I really wanted to tune into the spirit. So I started doing that where I just, after work, I'd sit there and be still, let go, let God, right? And just absolutely listen. And what would happen is those things would be coming out of my mind, right? All the things of worry and the doubt, and I get my next instructions or just get a little more peace. And it'd be like reset, all brand new, come back again, right? Didn't have to be any kind of, omen out or, any kind of official kind of meditation, right? But it's just, a prayerful attentiveness. I just take a deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, right? So you could start real simple, but it works. It really does work. And again, tell everybody where they could get your book again.
So yeah, the book is Change Your Day, Not Your Life,
I like
and
that.
you
Yeah.
can get that anywhere books are sold.
Okay.
Um,
All right. There you go.
yeah, I have a publisher, so I don't sell it through my website. So
Okay.
any favorite bookstore.
Any favorite books? And you have an audio one too?
Yeah, there's an Audible for it as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and then on my website, I've done a ton of videos that are short clips on these basically these ideas and how to implement them. Just to give you a little teaser, one of my favorite concepts that I'm working on right now is this idea of how many emotions do we really have? And researchers have recently narrowed it down to 4. And so like there's mad, glad, sad, or scared, right? Those are the 4, right? And so when if someone says, Andy, I feel so overwhelmed, I say, overwhelmed is not an emotion. Which one of those is it? Are you mad, glad, sad, or scared?
Mm.
And that has been a great way for people to clarify their thinking. So anyway, that's
Oh,
the kind
that's
of things that
good.
I'm doing.
Oh, that's
So it's
good.
good.
Because overwhelmed is almost like the excuse, right? Because you,
Yeah,
because you,
it's a
cause
weasel word,
it's a weasel word. Good.
Yeah,
Like that.
yeah.
Very cool. Dr. Andy Gore, I really appreciate you. And just maybe, you know, you even your last name, Core, right? Maybe you could just give us a core, something for people to take away from today.
Yeah, so I'll just pass along one. This isn't
Okay.
original to me, but it's my core belief. It's my core mantra, or as we say in Arkansas, a mantra. And it's real simple: is that if you each day you wake up, the most important thought of your day is your first thought, and because it sets the tone, it creates a momentum for your entire day. So my first thought is serve, not shine. And I think that's a great way to start your day, any important conversation, or anytime that you have an important interaction with someone. If you lead with, I'm going to here to serve, not shine, it'll help you.
Amen. That's beautiful. That I'm I actually do the same thing. I actually before I even get to that part, when I wake up, I think of what I'm grateful for. So I get into that, get that energy going and then service. That's it right there. You got it. I really, really appreciate talking to you too. And
Oh,
again,
it's my pleasure, Chris.
Andy,
This has been a great convo. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. There's so much here. We'll have to come back and break it apart and drill down a little bit more inside of it because it really is enlightening and can really help people, you know, soar on the top of the wave as they go through life.
Yeah, I agree. I think the combination of having trusted advisors like you in people's lives and then working on their own mental resiliency is a 1 + 1 = 3 kind of
There
connection.
you go. Exactly. All right, Andy. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you. Have a great day.
You too. And there you have it, my fellow financial warriors. Another enlightening episode of Money 911. I hope you're as inspired as I am to conquer the challenges of high demand and emerge victorious. As always, if this episode has empowered you and lit a fire under your financial goals, please do us a favor. Smash that like button, share it with your tribe, and leave a comment with your biggest takeaway. Remember, together we're unstoppable. And a colossal thank you to our incredible guest, Dr. Andy Corr, for sharing his wisdom and guidance on thriving in high-demand environments. Connect with him on social media, grab his book, and watch your journey to success take flight. And for more financial wisdom and adventure, stay tuned for our next episode. We've got an arsenal of knowledge ready to unleash, so don't miss out. Until next time, keep thriving, keep learning, keep conquering your financial dreams. There's so much to learn about healthy money. I hope today's discussion brings you one step closer to securing and protecting your future. So you can get started on the right foot, go to meetwithkrismeller.com and schedule your free financial fitness strategy session. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to Money 911 so you don't miss our next episode, which includes health, wealth, and peace of mind.